it.
That's what I'm talking about.
Wait.
Okay, now, from the beginning.
Welcome to the Muscle, Mind, and Money Podcast. I am one of your hosts. My name is Dominic.
And this is Nastasia. Now on to the show.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back and we are better than ever. We are on to episode number 18, where we have a special guest today. We have Kat Barefield coming to us live from, I think it's Temecula, California.
Is that right, Kat?
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And how's your little COVID-19 holiday treating you so far?
I know it sounds a little odd. I am digging it. I like it. I am being so productive. I'm getting in a nice rhythm. I'm getting projects done around the house. I'm spending more quality time with my dogs and my family. So sounds odd. And I get to connect more like with you guys, right? So
I feel like we have found so many ways to be almost in this strange way more connected than before. So like,
yes.
I mean, we see each other on social all the time. We used to see each other at work. And now we went a long span of time where we didn't talk or see each other. And now that this has happened, this is like our second or third time that we've gotten to connect.
Exactly.
So
good. So
I'm glad that you're in a good
silver lining.
rhythm. Yes.
Yes.
Huge silver
Silver
lining.
lining.
What's the hashtag right now that's going around? Us connected together so far apart? Or there's something closer together but never far apart. There's some kind of hashtag that's going around. Maybe that's what's being played up here in Canada, is we're all in this together but so far apart. Who knows? But we wanted to bring you onto the podcast because of your background and your wealth of knowledge. You see into a fitness industry that we've worked so many years with, of where you can reflect on the past but see more into the crystal ball of the future. But your story's fascinating. How you grew up in the business to where you are today, and I know the relationship that you have with Nastasia is something if you could share with our audience, and our audience can take a bunch of notes and make sure that they're just paying attention, because I feel like we got one of the best experts in the industry to bring onto our podcast.
Yeah, before I turn it to Kat. So Kat is a big deal, you guys. If you have not seen her or listened to her speak, or you don't know about her, hang around with us and stick with us for this podcast. So Kat got her BS in athletic training and moved on to also get her master's in science in sports nutrition. She has been a working mom for her entire life in the fitness industry, and then transitioning into the nutrition side of the fitness industry after she sat for her board exam to become a dietitian. There's a total difference than being an actual registered dietitian that sat for board exams versus just saying you're the nutrition person. So she is incredibly well educated. She constantly keeps tip of the spear on new things and new education and new courses to stay very relevant in the industry. And she goes way back where she started her career as a personal trainer and then moved through this high level of education to move into the dietitian side of things. She's spent most of her career in fitness, whether it's literally in a gym or being the supportive role into the gym, and now has continued to flourish into a lot more than even that. And so today, I want to turn it over to Kat, because if you're watching us on video, she just celebrated a birthday, and she doesn't look old enough to be the mother of a professional baller, a professional basketball player, and her daughter is super talented in basketball as well. But where did you begin? And tell us your story of the triumph and the struggle to get to where you are today.
Yeah, so thank you very much. That was really nice of you guys. So I just like a lot of other people, I grew up in sports and athletics and gymnastics and track and field. And so, working out and staying active is just part of what I did. So I went into college, to try to become an athletic trainer, an ATC, right, where you work with sports teams and you rehab, knees, shoulders, and things like that. And I did a 1,500 internship in, college, working under like the Chargers position and an athletic training staff. And I figured I didn't like it. So
why? That's like a dream job.
Well, it was. But if you think about how far back it was, this is over 20 years now, right? there wasn't a lot of opportunities for females. Even now, there's limited opportunities working on protein. So it just really wasn't, what I was really passionate about. I liked biochemistry and physiology and anatomy. I'm kind of geekish in that regard. But the actual practical hands-on job of taping ankles and, on the road all the time and like things like that just wasn't really like it. So I ended up getting married and having a son, not necessarily in that order, right? But that's a different conversation. And so I ended up, being a mother, not really planning on that. And so as a stay-at-home mom, I was getting a little bit stir-crazy, needing some adult, interaction. And a friend of mine worked over at the local gym and was like, hey, he was a fitness manager there and was like, hey, why don't you come train for me? I was like, what? Train? What do you mean train? Like, I didn't even think about fitness as a career and opportunity. He's like, yeah, come train people. So, I sort of go in and meet with him, and he's talking about, the whole fitness aspect of, exercise. And it was a whole different ball game, like, totally different. So that's what I did. And so I was able to, work part-time, set my own hours, make really good money, and work people out. And it was super enjoyable and fulfilling in that regard. But what I found working with people is, most people want to lose weight. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the stats still around, like 70 to 90% of people who join the gym want to change their body composition, right?
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They want to lose fat, gain muscle, or a combination of the two.
Yeah.
So there was a missing piece. And what was missing was the nutritional aspect. And so a program got implemented in our gym called the Apex Fitness, right? It was a software desktop. I know, so the millennials listening in, a desktop software where you actually had to insert a CD into the computer to download the program. And we ran nutrition programs using the Apex software. And so I got certified in that, and that really piqued my interest. Because what I found was that when you gave people nutritional guidance, they got better results.
Yep.
They did. They just got better results, right? And so then what I did is I went back to school, and I'm like, listen, I got to learn more. So I went back to school and got accepted in a Master's of Science program in sports nutrition. So, and I was able to marry the two. Some classes, obviously, you can choose. So I was able to marry the two between sports nutrition and then weight control. And then you learn a little bit about supplements, just a little bit. They dabble in it, but they don't do much. So I was, raising my kids. Somewhere in there, I had another kid. It's all a blur. But I was able to go to school at night, still work, raise kids, take care of a, home. And so I would not recommend it, you guys. I do not recommend having small children and going back to school. It's super hard. I remember, my daughter, taking her to campus while I was doing my thesis research and having to breastfeed in between conference calls and things like that. But so that's what happened is I went to school, got my sports nutrition, Master's of Science. And then after that, I was working for Neil Spruce because Neil Spruce founded the Apex Fitness group. And he recruited me out of the gym to work for him to teach other trainers how to run this nutrition system, right? So that they could help their clients be successful. And, he's really the one who put me through my master's degree and I was like, should I go do the dietetics curriculum and become a registered dietitian? He's like, absolutely. Well, absolutely, you should do that. So I went and did another year and a half of curriculum on top of my master's degree doing dietetics, right? And then to be a dietitian, you have to do an internship. You have to spend time in hospital, right, with patients, and then you have to spend time in food service. And you have to spend time in community nutrition, and then you get to do some time on your own studying whatever you want. Well, what did I study? I studied fitness. So I did another certification in fitness. I did an ACSM certification, So that's what my internship was. Again, raising kids, doing internship, working, teaching trainers. And I was able to really, transitioning from that, help mold an online software system now, the .fit program, so that trainers could deliver nutrition to their clients without having to be a dietitian. Right? Mm-hmm. So utilizing our software system, trainers are able to stay within their scope of practice and still give nutrition. So that's sort of my story, if you will. Fast forward, 20 years or whatever. There's my son in the background, right? He graduated from the University of Utah, Division I basketball player. I didn't have to pay for college, thank God. Right? And so now he finished his first year of professional ball, and I'm still in fitness. Really, my passion is education and, implementing, programs, protocols, solutions for trainers to really be able to make an impact. Because that's one thing I know after 20 years of experience is, from experience, and when you look at the body of research, that nutrition is the number one driver of body composition change. You can't really move the needle that much for the average gym person, the average person coming in. You can't move the needle that much with just working out. But yet that's what our clients believe. Right?
All three of us have been through personal, physical body changes, losing weight, gaining muscle. And so we are all we're all certified trainers on this call as well.
Yeah.
So we are all very familiar that the success comes from the marriage of working a holistic lifestyle. But all three of us love going to the gym. And right now with COVID, the fitness industry is getting absolutely wrecked. So it was one of the kind of last to close, but this is an area where it's considered a lot of people, so large social gatherings. Clearly, when people sweat, that creates dirt, not necessarily the most sanitary place.
Germs.
And now we're in this hyper freak out of getting sick and being quarantined, and all the gyms worldwide are closed. It's a giant business from a financial and economic standpoint, and it's also from a member and consumer standpoint, something that has really rocked our normalcy. So I ran into one of my old trainers that worked with me for years out in the park here, and he has a TRX hooked up to the tree and a kettlebell.
Love
his flip-flops off and his feet on the ground, and he's like, I'm just I'm figuring it out. I'm adjusting. But Dominic has some stats for us about the industry, and then we want to hear from you what you think is going to happen after this whole pandemic returns to normal. So the fitness industry worldwide supports.
Well, yeah, I can jump in on the fitness industry side of it, but if I back up a little bit, Kat, when you mentioned on your story, and it's really inspiring because I started in a fitness manager. I was a trainer. I saw that there was the Apex desktop software, and clients started to see rapidly fast results through coaching around nutrition. But you made a choice at that time to pivot and go into more further education. So much so, you and Neil helped create software for trainers that don't have the dietitian background to still support clients with the fastest accelerator to losing weight, gaining muscle is nutrition. Mm-hmm. But through that all, raising children and life's going on, what motivated you? Because I think this is going to play into later in the conversation. You had to pivot on your own. You made a decision. I'm going to invest more in education. Others are probably thinking that way now. If I'm working in the industry now and things are at a standstill, but how do I put that together? How can I train more, educate myself more, and still pay bills? How did you do it? What are some of your advices if you were talking to me and I'm where you were those years ago?
So I think the first thing is you have to follow the things that pique your interest, right? What are the things that you want to learn about, that you want to know about? And for me, it was definitely nutrition and weight control and helping these people who join the gym. And then the second thought process is time's going to pass by anyways. It's going to pass by anyways. So you might as well dig in. So for me, it was taking 2 classes at a time at night, right? and still working, and then relying on your support system. So for me, I was married at the time, and I had my parents who helped me, watch my kids while I went to an internship. So, just following your interests, doing a little bit at a time, and then relying on your support system to help you out. And I did have to, put my son into childcare part-time while I went to work, but he was at the age where it was okay because he was needing some other interaction with other, people. So that was good as well. And then I happened to have somebody who I worked with in Neil that was like, just super supportive. So if you can get, people, and I think employers nowadays are more flexible than even they were back then, but if you can get to work with individuals and employers that are flexible in that regard, then take advantage of the, different perks that employers are offering. But definitely following what interests you. And I had a passion to really, help these individuals who came into the gym. They didn't necessarily want to be there. It's not like us, right? Mm-hmm. They're desperate for solutions. Oftentimes they've dieted multiple times, and they just want to make some progress, mm-hmm. right? And so I didn't want to mislead people. I didn't want to, mislead them and lead them down the wrong path. I wanted to give them a true way for them to reach their goal that they could sustain the rest of their life. Mm-hmm. So you got to dig into what's important to you, what impact you want to make on other people, what are things that are in you that you want to pursue, and then just tackle a little bit at a time. Even, Dominic, if it's not necessarily going back to get a master's degree, but maybe take credible certifications that get you online, or read credible information that's really going to give you, solid information to then pass along. And so I think it's important for trainers or anyone in the industry to know what sources are credible and which ones aren't. Mm-hmm. So starting with finding out what are the credible sources, and we can help in that regard, right? So we can point to, which bodies are the most, credible, like the NASM or like PTA Global, which podcasts or which scientists put out evidence-based information, like the ISSN, International Science of Sports Nutrition. They put out really good stuff for trainers to look at. A lot of that stuff is either free or it's very little investment that you could pay a little bit over time. So you don't necessarily have to get a master's degree to become a dietitian, but you can get educated in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I appreciate you sharing that, because it leads me into, so the state of the fitness business, as Nastasia mentioned, mm-hmm. the first places to close are usually the last ones to reopen, especially in the size of group gathering. As you've taken the last few weeks to evolve and look at the business from an educational standpoint, I believe many trainers forcefully are put into a position to where you were years ago of, how do I make this choice to either further my education or continue down a path of my interests, so I can then, leverage my community so I can impact more clients. But mm-hmm. this is going to, I believe, and Nastasia, I believe, is with me on this, that after COVID-19, the fitness industry will have to pivot itself no matter what. I think that mm-hmm. social behaviors will be different, cleanliness behaviors will be different. But if there's, I think, close to 400,000 registered fitness employees, at least that was in 2019, they're out of work right now until they're in the U.S. alone. Thank mm-hmm. you. Before their gym opens back up. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Before their gym opens back up, but it's not going to be just status quo. The future mm-hmm. of the fitness industry is going to have to change as behaviors of individuals will change. And I wonder what you've already seen through your crystal ball as you've been collaborating and speaking to other fitness owners, trainers, education experts, to see what's going to have to be the biggest change to the fitness industry to still make impact on people's lives and complement at home and the gym lifestyles.
Well, so let's start with, a little bit of data. So I collaborate with marketing people and, these experts in SEO and stuff like that. And so, they've dug up for me, what are people looking for? What are they searching for, right, on the internet? And what do you think it revolves around? It's around nutrition and how do people improve, protect their health, right? How do they support their immune system? And what exercises do I need to do? How much exercises do I need to do? Do I get enough vitamin D or different nutrients? Are there certain nutrients or supplements that I can take to support my health and my immune system? So, people are one of the silver linings of this pandemic is that people are paying more attention to their health and their nutrition, right? They want to know how to better take care of themselves. And if you look at, the behavioral side of things, there's only 3 things that really drive behavior change. 1 is an epiphany. 2 is changing your environment. And 3 is baby steps, taking baby steps to make changes. And so what are we experiencing right now? I think maybe some people are having epiphanies. And they're having to change their environment because now they've got to stay home. So it's almost prime for people they almost have to change their behaviors and create new habits. And that has a direct impact on our industry, because now what are people doing? Fitness professionals are all doing online workouts, online coaching, virtual coaching. And so what are trainers wanting to know? What can I do to coach my clients besides their workouts? What supplements should I tell them to take? How should I tell them to eat? So this is all another silver lining, forcing fitness professionals to elevate, to grow, to learn more, to be able to figure out, how do I deliver my nutrition? How do I add value to my services above and beyond the workout? Because people want more, right? So, and I think that even gyms now, the large chains, the people that I work with, they're offering virtual training. And one thing we know about behavior is that when it's easy to do, people are more likely to do it. So guess what I do? I do Zumba because I love Zumba. It's an easy way for me to do cardio. I don't even think I'm doing cardio. I'm just dancing. I'm doing Zumba on Zoom. I love it. Do I need to go back to the gym? I don't think so. I think I can continue doing it on Zoom from the comfort of my own living room. So as a business, how do you take that into account? Well, you have to, right? You have to. So it has to be another channel for people to get their fitness as an extension of the gym, if you will. And then I just don't see how your business is going to survive if you don't take into account that this pandemic has changed people's habits around how they consume fitness.
So,
right?
So you're suggesting that it will be a marriage of what was and currently what is. So not necessarily saying the days of going to the gym are dead or the one-on-one face-to-face personal training is gone, but if you're missing that virtual and that that connectivity via technology and the leveling up of offering more than just the face-to-face, then you might get phased out. So I know as a trainer, a lot of personal trainers, and even for me as a client, the face-to-face human interaction plus the workout was enough to keep me engaged and to keep me paying. Without the face-to-face human actual real interaction, I do believe, and I am in agreement with you, that there has to be an extra added value. It's like if you were really good at the connectivity with a client, and this could go for a hairdresser, a nail tech, any kind of service. If you're really good with the connectivity, it could almost cover up not offering the extension of the service. But now it's like virtually you're going to have to offer and level up that extension of your service and be a holistic service, not just singular.
And I think that, again, people, their interest is piqued around their overall health and well-being. So, I would think that you're going to see a little uptick in business when we open up, because more people want to get healthy and protect themselves, right? But not everybody's going to want to come back to the gym. So if you don't have an avenue for that, to your point, you might be missing out. And then how are we going to come back? Everything that I'm reading is you're going to come back. We're going to come back slowly. You're going to let in 25 people at a time. Well, again, you got to have an extension to continue to offer, right, your member base some services. And so not only with just workouts, but once again, offering nutritional support, providing that guidance. People want it. People want credible information. And so being able to deliver that virtually, I think, is going to be another avenue for, not just the gym owners, but obviously the trainers and the fitness professionals. So we can all level up and help each other get more skilled and more healthy.
Yeah. And, in your opinion, Kat, do if there was a service I could bolt on right now, if I was a health club provider, or if I was just an independent private personal trainer, I believe nutrition is where people are going to be forced to have to level up right there. It's neglected from an educational standpoint. Not saying it's easy, but I can teach exercise physiology. I know proper form and tension and range of motion. But when it comes to the inner workings of people's metabolism and what we eat is what we actually consume in energy and then we put back out to the world. And that, to your point, that is something I can do from a computer. I can do from a phone. I can impact the world as long as you'll connect with me. But businesses will have to evolve in that space if they haven't already. Individuals will have to continue their education in that space if they haven't already. And right now, this is a pause moment where you're going to be forced to do so. As both you and Nastasia pointed out, going back to business as normal, you may last a day or two, but you're going to get phased out really, really quick because the whole world paused. But the awareness around their health has not.
Yeah, I think that's a great point.
You mentioned most people are searching right now better nutrition, how to get in shape. They may not be taking action against it, and that's something that we want to talk to you about, because we know you're doing quite a bit of education yourself around, hey, if I'm aware of it, what do I really do to motivate myself to take action against it? But that's the first part of ever taking any kind of action, is being aware. And I have more free time than I've ever had before from a consumer standpoint to Google how to lose 10 pounds by the summer, or, and I'll only listen to what the water cooler tells me. My friend here doesn't eat carbs. This person over here doesn't do this. And there's so much busyness and noise behind that area. This is the space to really leap ahead with. But it is around, okay, even if I know myself as a trainer, I'm a fitness professional, how do I get myself to start to move into that space of changing my business? Is I got to have the motivation to do so, but the impact to do so.
So how do we begin? I guess that's our question, not on a technical standpoint of what certification do I get? I mean, if anybody is listening and they are interested on doing the things that we're talking about, whether you're a club owner or an independent trainer and you need some of that technical guidance of programs, software, certifications, you can always reach out to Kat. We'll put her contact info below. But in general, I think a lot of people are feeling this way, whether it's the fitness industry, business, or that you're currently on a pause. You've been furloughed from your job because a lot of industries are affected. Kat's overall message is continue to level yourself up and be proactive to figure out in your industry, what will COVID change in my niche market that I need to get ahead of and evolve so time doesn't pass me by when things start to get re-implemented back to normal. That goes for every industry. This is going to affect every single industry because it's affecting consumer behavior and human behavior. So whether it's me figuring out nutrition, or if I'm in car sales and now I need to get my social media and online sales up and going, whatever it is, how do we start to create habits and get the motivation and keep the motivation to persevere through these times?
It's the keep going.
Yeah.
It's the story of where you were. And so take how fast you went through it. I got my master's. I raise kids. They're professional athletes. I'm also a dietitian. I mean, I'm here. And I see that your background of the video, like all of your accomplishments. What's the secret to staying in the saddle, to motivating yourself or holding yourself accountable to doing this new plan, this new idea, this way to evolve? Because I think all of us have great ideas. I got journals filled with them, but no action's ever been taken against them.
Dominic's bought 3 of those learn the language. What is that thing called? The Rosetta Stone.
Let's just pause.
Rosetta Stone?
Yeah.
And then I was like, after he bought like Mandarin and Italian, I'm like, could you get Greek? So then we got that, and I think 12
From
years
all
in,
the
we know
wasted
10 words.
textbooks or Rosetta Stones or self-help apps, I should be fluid in like 17 languages, and I can't even speak English.
Hey.
So back to motivation, because I'm taking
maybe
notes.
after today.
I'm taking notes.
Kat's going to get us
Kat's
there.
here to help.
Oh my gosh.
We all have to evolve. But Kat, you've been trying to help clients do this forever. And you got to help us all with how do we take motivation hold it accountable, take baby steps, because that's
Right.
what I think the whole world's there right now.
Yeah, so I think that, the first step to anything, like you said, is awareness. Okay, so let's be even more specific. You got to clarify. What is the aspiration or outcome that you want to achieve? It's the first thing. What do you want to achieve? What is it that you're looking to do? It can be something that's measurable, like an outcome, or it can be something more, aspirational, like fit into a bathing suit type of thing. But what is it that you want to achieve? That's the first thing, right? So then you take, you have an aspiration, right? So there's the motivation. You're motivated to do that. Now, the relationship between motivation and ability is compensatory, meaning that the more able or the easier it is to do, the less motivation you need, and vice versa. The harder something is, right, the more motivation you need to achieve that. So if you have an aspiration or an outcome, then you might want to start with making it easy to start digging in. Mm-hmm. So let's say you have this aspiration or outcome. You got to break it down. What are the behaviors that will get you there? So let's take master's degree. Okay, well, I got to research programs. I got to see how much they cost. I got to, see if they got online classes. I got to, do all these behaviors that would lead to attaining that goal. And then you chunk it down to what is the easiest thing I can do? I'm going to search on the internet for 5 minutes after dinner on master's programs. That's it. I made some progress, right? I'm going to, apply by a certain time. So you sort of break it down and you make these little behaviors easy to do instead of what most people do in their mind. They think, I got to do this whole thing all at once. And then it becomes too overwhelming to do because they don't chunk it down to little actionable steps.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Oh my gosh, so much. And we were actually just having a conversation with one of our friends about this the other day, and it was more around financial stuff. But
yeah,
this person is so highly motivated, but doesn't know where to begin. And it feels so daunting and so difficult that for years it's been put off because it's like, I don't even know where to start. And so you're saying that most things that you're highly motivated to do are also very hard. It's not easy to make these behavior changes. So you need to make it easy.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is the more difficult something is, the more motivation that you need and vice versa.
Okay.
Right? So the easier something is, the less motivation that you need to do. Getting a master's degree is really, really hard, right? It's really hard. So, I mean, you need a high level of motivation to get that master's degree done, or you can break it down into baby steps and lower that motivation needed. So what people think, sometimes we need a mindset shift. Instead of you thinking you have to accomplish everything at one time or that it's this big, gigantic thing, you got to break it down to its individual components and tackle things a little bit at a time so that each little task, I can get on the internet and search a master's degree. I can't get a master's degree all at once, right? Getting a master's degree all at once is like so far in the future, I can't. But I can search for 5 minutes. I can, download an application. I can fill out the application. Are you with me? So if we take the time to chunk it down, to break down our aspiration or goal into little behaviors, then we can start to, make progress by tackling it down. Like Dom, to learn, Mandarin, like let's say you said, okay, well, I'm going to listen to Rosetta Stone for 3 minutes after dinner. That's it. And then I'm going to hack a little bit of neuroscience, and I'm going to give myself an attaboy and be like, yes, I'm a baddie from doing that, right? Then what you do is you give your little brain, you give your big brain, Dom, you give your brain a shot of dopamine, and that wires in that habit for now, and then that makes it more likely that you're going to do it again tomorrow night after dinner. So then you get another 3 minutes in, and you celebrate again. And then guess what? After a while, it's 5 minutes and 6 minutes. And now it's a group. That's just what you do. It's just every night after dinner, you're listening to Mandarin and you're learning it. And then guess what? 3 months down the line, you know how to talk Mandarin.
Yes.
But no, most people don't chunk it down to 3 minutes. Mm-mm. They're like, I got to sit at my computer for hours.
Yeah, because
who has hours?
If I don't do that, it feels like then I'm not doing anything and it's not worth it.
That's
so
right.
Why would I do 3 minutes? What is 3 minutes going to get me?
Yeah, it goes back to it goes back to the all or nothing filter that you go through first.
Yes.
So I'm motivated. I go online. I'm like, okay, how do I learn to speak Mandarin? And I find Google and it says Rosetta Stone. Well, that was easy. I click on it. Oh, it's only $200. Okay, let me purchase that.
That was
easy. That's easy. This is easy. So I'm still motivated because the abilities for me to do this is easy. Then I get the Rosetta Stone home or this. I'm just taking you back in time because I know everything's downloadable now. But you get it, and then you're like, this program will require 40 hours of work, and it'll require more continued education. I'm like, oh, I don't have time to do this.
Yeah.
I put it here, and I put it in a shelf. Because right there, my all or nothing, if this doesn't basically give me the most easiest way to do it, once I find that there's a speed bump or roadblock, I stop and I just break it down. You're saying you got to crack the code and just start with chapter 1, 3 minutes, because this is how you're going to break through.
But then Kat's also saying it's our job to make things that aren't easy into being easy, and to make things that are large into being small, tiny, baby steps. So it is kind of on us to be able to self-identify and to start, whether it's a list or whether it's a routine, to start slowly chunking the time and dividing out the tasks to make them little, to make them achievable.
So I'm saying both of what you're saying. So I'm validating that exactly both. So the first thing is give up the all or nothing mindset. Mm-hmm. Like you got to let it go. Mm-hmm. It's not, if I don't do all of this, then I can't do it at once or tackle it. So give that up, let it go. And then the second thing is lower the motivation threshold. Lower your need to rely on motivation by making it easy, by breaking it down, to your point, Nastasia.
That's
great. Right? So doing both is is what I'm saying.
Okay. Well, that's wonderful. And then there was one more that you mentioned earlier about changing your environment. Can you elaborate on that for us?
Yeah. So let's say just right now, it's a classic example. Let's say, well, have you ever known anybody who, maybe you experienced it, go to college, for example. You move out of your house at home and you move to college. What happens when people typically move to college? What's that phenomenon known as? It's called the freshman
15. Yep.
Right? So what happened? Did this person's, genetics change overnight? I mean, no. What changed? Their environment.
Right.
So they had access to all kinds of junk food. And so what happened? It changed their eating habits. So they're a product of the fact that their environment completely changed. Mm-hmm. Well, that's the opposite of true right now. So what's happening? Everybody's stuck at home. So now everyone has to pivot and create new habits, create new workout habits or not, right? Get out of the habit of working out, create new eating habits or not, eat a bunch of takeout, etc. So we're almost, if you're, stuck in a certain environment, you have to you're at the mercy of what's around you and what's available to you. And in the quarantine, I think that can be a huge positive thing, because to Dominic's point, he said earlier, I have so much time now. Mm-hmm. Like we all have so much time. So now time can't be an excuse necessarily anymore, right? Now you have time to, learn how to meal prep or learn new cooking skills or, learn how to, tackle an exercise habit, et cetera. So that's just a classic example, the freshman 15, and then all of us being stuck at home. Now we have to pivot. We got to change in some way, shape, or form based on the fact that our environment is what it is.
Yeah. So I think that this has been a great help on how to create the habits that you need to keep you motivated, but not rely on motivation, but instead rely on just making tiny steps and small habits that build into something great. and kind of like go with this all or nothing or this or that. If you guys listen to our last podcast, we talked about the hustle porn, that I'm so addicted to just hustling. It's like I go all out or I don't know how to function. I think in our long-term success in general, whether it's in our careers or relationships in our life, we're going to have to learn this skill. And today, Kat brings the science behind proving that if you do this, you're going to have more success on sticking to things and ultimately like having the success and making the changes you want to make.
Yeah.
So, Kat, anything else that you want to leave our listeners with before we wrap up today?
Well, I think the other piece that we haven't really talked about is, you got it from a behavior standpoint. Any behavior occurs when there's three things that intersect, right? So we talked about motivation, wanting to do something, ability, right? Having the ability to do it. And the last thing is there being a prompt, some kind of cue, right? So if there's no prompt, you're not going to do it, regardless if you're motivated or if it's easy to do. So having a good prompt is something that is really going to help you to create new habits and or break habits. So for instance, we talked about Dominic learning Mandarin, right? Rosetta Stone. Well, a good prompt is something that's in your daily routine. Okay. Because you do it all on a consistent basis. But what do most people do for prompts? They set timers that they push snooze on, or calendar events that they ignore, or they put sticky notes places that, and they have all these sticky notes that don't mean anything after a while because it's just a bunch of sticky notes. So people rely on external things to remind them, to get them to do things that they want or think they should do. Well, a really good prompt is something that's already in your daily routine. They call it an anchor, right? An anchor is something that's grounded, right? Okay. So eating dinner is probably something that you do on a regular basis. So that's why I say, if you want to create new habits, anchor it to something in your daily routine. After you eat dinner, sit down and listen to Rosetta Stone, right? For 3 minutes, making it easy. And then the last piece is the celebration piece, the neuroscience of giving yourself praise, giving yourself an attaboy to where, you feel like you accomplished something. So keep that in mind. If you're trying to create new habits, you got to have a good prompt. Then make that behavior super small. Make sure you give yourself some celebration afterwards to wire it in, right? And then the opposite is true with bad habits. The first easiest thing is to remove the prompt. So if you're constantly eating junk food, well, the easiest hack to that, take the junk food out of your home. Yeah. Or make it harder to access. Like lock the pantry door and give the key to someone else that won't give it back to you until later on. So I think those are the things. And if you guys want to learn more about this, this is the FOG behavior model that I'm talking about. And DJ Fogg is a scientist, he's a behavior scientist at Stanford University here in California. And you can read his book, which is called Tiny Habits. Okay? Oh, you can't see that. Maybe you can if I hold it up. Tiny Habits by BJ Fogg. And you can even sign up for a 5-week course with him. tinyhabits.com/5 weeks, I believe, is the URL. And it's sort of an email course, and it'll take you through the steps of behavior change and how you use tiny habits to create new habits and get rid of habits that you don't want to. So just some resources for you.
Kat, what motivated you to read the book and study more about this? How has this impacted your life?
Yeah, so once again, we are in this, information age, as we call it. There's never been a time where so much information is readily available. But what I found is working with clients, working with trainers, and listening to their issues, information is not enough. We're so informed, right? It doesn't bridge the gap between my client actually doing what they know they should be doing, right? So actually getting them to change their behaviors is really when you start to crack the code with clients and transforming their lives. And so I probably read almost every behavioral model that's out there, whether it's Charles Duhigg's The Power of Habit, the trans-theoretical model, which is the stages of change, There's other people. James Clear wrote a book called Atomic Habits. I've probably been, I want to get my PhD in this area. It's something that I'm really interested in. And so when I came across this information, I'm like, I got to read that. And so I ended up taking a certification and going through a 6-week course with BJ Fogg and his, academy, and going through it, because it really does bridge the gap between here, client, eat fruits and vegetables, to here's how you implement this in your life. Mm-hmm. So they're intricately related, right? Information's not enough. You have to have a plan to get your clients to implement it, and a proven plan.
Is there something for you? So as we're talking about these habits and creating these changes, is there something that you've done during this quarantine using the book that you'd share with us?
Oh, yeah. So there's a couple things that I'm doing. So part of the Tiny Habits method is writing these little recipe cards on these little habits you want to create. So I want to resistance train more consistently, because as you know, I'm on the road a lot traveling, but now that I'm not, well, now it's like prime time for me to resistance train, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a couple things that I do. I pee like 7 to 10 times a day. Most humans do, by the way. And so after I pee, I do 5 squats, right? And then I'm like, yes, you go, girl. So I've been doing that the whole quarantine, and I'm like squatting like a mad woman. Mm-hmm. And then after I walk my dog, right, which I do in the morning and in the evening, I do 3 resistance training exercises, one for my core, one for my glutes, and one for my arm, my upper body. And so I've been doing that on a consistent basis. And so I've been working out more consistently, more than ever before, just by implementing tiny habits. And then I've done some little things around meditation as well, and around gratitude. But those are some of the start small. And then what's going to happen is that all these little routines are going to build into more and more and more and more, right? Because now it's wiring in.
Oh my gosh. Be like this. And what I love about this is in your examples, that takes you how long? 10, like less than a minute each time?
Oh yeah,
like
exactly.
Up to 3 minutes. Yeah. So it's, and in the span of the day, it might take up 15 minutes of your day, but because it's so small and it's so easy to do after your, after the points that
after I pee,
have your grounding things that you do, then it becomes consistent. And I bet you are you feeling more like, as you've continued to, let's talk about the resistance training for one of the examples, are you feeling like now, like you want to do more of it because you're feeling stronger and seeing results? Is it motivating you to say, now I want to do twice as many?
Yes. And that is what's happening naturally. And if you can think about tiny habits, think of tiny habits like a seed, right? A seed. If it's planted in the right place, it's going to nourish and grow. So the right place would be as an anchor in your daily routine, and then nourishing it with celebration, right? Giving yourself a pat on the back instead of, I got to go to the, work out for an hour or else that's not worth it. That's the exact wrong mindset. Right? Especially if you're not in a habit.
I just feel like what's actually keeping us stuck is the mentality of trying to do this huge feat that we're not used to. It doesn't fit into our life. It's uncomfortable. It's not routine for us. And what will allow us to move into the right direction is to do these tiny things that seem insignificant, which really will become significant by doing them consistently over time. I have to be honest, Kat, this is a big mind shift for me. I'm kind of like the all or nothing. I am like balls to the walls, all in, or I just won't do it at all. And as I am recovering from an intense treatment that I hadn't been working out, I now have to, I can't just jump into the workouts that I used to do. And it's really frustrating for me. It's something that for me is hard. And if I can't do it all the way, then I just don't want to do it. So I've wrestled mentally for weeks around that. And I'm only now on my 2nd week that I'm like, all right, fuck it. I'll go do what I can do. And it started really lame, like so lame that I just came home and was like, what's the point of even doing this? This is so stupid. But putting my shoes on, getting outside, setting the things up, and just moving. And after really the first week of me battling how stupid this was and how insignificant and how ineffective, I actually started to feel a little better. And now this week I'm able to do twice as much. I feel twice as strong. And so it just goes to support what you're talking about, but it's not a natural way for me to think.
No.
Most people. It's not an easy shift.
Yeah.
Yeah, because for me personally, if I was to chime in on this, it's when you break it into small little baby steps, you have to get past and be okay that those are actually one step closer to your outcome goal versus I think you're not doing enough to make an impact or change.
Mm-hmm. And that's where the celebration piece comes in. Yeah. People, and a lot of you guys are two very driven individuals. Mm-hmm. We're not used to, celebrating for little accomplishments. Mm-hmm. And so, but that's the neuroscience of it. If you can give yourself a little dopamine, feel good, and really genuinely think imagine that you got a call, you were applying for a job, you're jobless, you're applying for the job of your dreams, and you just got the call that, hey, we want to offer you the job. What would your initial reaction be?
Oh, I'll be so excited. I'll be excited.
Like, what would you do?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Would you be like, yes? Mm-hmm. Like, what? So, and that's the feeling you want to tap into.
Yeah.
Your natural way you would react and give celebrate it. And that if you can do that, if you can make it, pair your little tiny habits with some, natural celebration for you, that's what's going to wire it in and turn it into a bigger and bigger habit and turn it into the aspiration or outcome. Otherwise, we're relying on our motivations behind us, whenever that's going to happen, or an epiphany, right?
Yeah.
Which, who knows, we might have those, but otherwise, we got the tiny way. It's the only proven ways to really change our behaviors.
This is why I love you. You just make me feel like I can do anything.
So you can.
As we wrap up today, thank you. This was incredible. So I am happy to hear that you believe the fitness industry is not dead and will continue. We just need to pivot and start being creative and aware of the new things going on around us due to this virus, mm-hmm. and how we can continue to bring value in whatever field we work in, but to be forward thinking and proactive and using this whole tiny habit and baby steps to change our habits and not relying just on motivation all the time, no matter what it is.
Absolutely. And a big takeaway for myself was you mentioned it about geography. So I do have time on my hands now. It's making me aware of things I want to change. Even so now with the time I'm afforded, I can start to make these behavior changes. Mm-hmm. But how do I keep them up when geography changes and I go back to work or something mm-hmm. there? And mm-hmm. that's where mm-hmm. Kat had really uncovered as these little baby steps start to recondition you to build a habit so your geography doesn't break your motivation of your behaviors. And that's because everyone right now is thinking, and how do we pivot forward? How do we move our business? How do we move our life? How do we transition out of COVID-19? And the sad story will be, oh, this is the way it was, or I had this idea, but I didn't take action against it, and I didn't evolve, but yet the world's evolving around me, and I don't want to, the fear of all or nothing, I don't want to be the nothing. And so contribute to the all, which is fascinating. And it's amazing that, how, yes, to Nastasia's point, and I'll echo it, you made it sound so simple.
I can do it.
That it's how we've not been doing this the whole time. Yeah. You were amazing. It's huge takeaways for me.
All right. Well,
we're shift for me too. So I'm glad.
We're wrapping up today. We want to thank you, Kat, as always. This is great. I'm going to go find my anchors now and make my tiny routines, and maybe the next time we meet, Dominic can speak to you in Mandarin for a few words.
Yeah, so make a list of anchors, like your daily routine that you do all the time. Also brainstorm celebrations. What are you might have to experiment with the celebrations, right? And then all the aspirations you have, throw them up on your whiteboard and then break them all down one by one, and pick the ones that you want to do and that are easy to do, and just start chipping away. So yeah, I do expect to hear the Mandarin next time we talk. No, just kidding.
I don't even know how to say any word. I'm like under pressure right now. I'm like, oh boy. All right.
Teasing.
So in our notes, we're going to find where people can reach you, but what's the easiest way? So if I'm someone listening and this is my first time being exposed to you, do they find you on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube? What's the easiest, best for you?
Yeah, so Instagram, KAT Barefield, BARE Field. Same thing on Facebook, Kat Barefield RD, I believe, on Facebook. I'm on Twitter, same thing, Kat Barefield, but Twitter I just rant on, so I don't know if you're interested in my rants. And then for email, Kat Barefield, all one word, @gmail.com.
Amazing.
All right, everybody. That's a wrap for today. Thank you, Kat, and we will see
Thanks,
you all
guys.
later.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Stay safe.